Okay, and 2,000 points of goblins. Let's see what we got. We have, for stars, we have 2 troops of more beast packs, acting as a little bit of chaff there. Then we've got 1 troll horde, this is proxy in here, another troll horde, and another troll horde. So 3 troll hordes. Then we've got a regiment of fleabag riders. These guys have Helm of the Ram for Thunderous 2. We've got 3 war trombones. Then we've got a horde of goblin. These are normally sharp sticks, but today they're putting down their spears. They're going to have bows. Goblin spitters, horde of, and we've got 2 giants. Then character-wise, we've got a troll bruiser. This guy's got Banner of the Griffin, so he's going to give some rallying to the trolls around him. And then we've got 2 flag gits. One of them, this guy has Loot of Insatiable Darkness for some Bane chant, and this guy has Diadem of Dragonkind for some breath attacks. And then we've got 2 wizards. This one's got Amulet for Lightning Bolt 5, and this one has got Soul Drain and Inspiring Talisman. So lots of characters in this goblin army, and lots of cheap stuff. So let's see how we get on. Okay, and here's 2,000 points of Varangur. Talk us through your list, Nick. What have you got?
Okay, so I've got a unit of Sons of Korgan with the Headstrong and Fury mark, and the Brew of Haste.
Nice.
I've got
Brew of Haste, +1 speed.
Yeah.
Because you normally have an issue with these guys with low
Outraged
movement.
by trolls no longer.
Been telling you that for months. Cover on.
A unit of Tundra Wolves.
Yeah.
A unit of Mounted Sons of Korgan with Brew of Courage on them.
Yeah, very nice.
That's a troop of 10 warband with nothing.
Cool.
Horde of Fallen with the Helm of the Ram. This is a regiment of Reavers. They've got the Brew of Strength, so they're Thunderous 2, Crushing 1.
Okay. Character-wise, what you got?
And then we've got Mage with the Familiar for Elite and the Amulet for +2 to his Lightning Bolt, so he's Lightning 6.
Should we see if he can hit anything today? That'll be good, wouldn't
with
it?
any luck he will, yeah. You've got the Scald with the Banner of the Griffin, as per. And then he got Herger with the big blue wings next to him.
Nice.
And then that
is
big bad ass kicking Sol. He's my king on Chimera. He has got the Headstrong and Fury mark, and he has got Vicious. He's got the Chant of Fate.
Right, first of all, gorgeous painted army. Well done. It looks absolutely lush. Now, you've had a lot of success with this. Do you want to talk us about what you did with the tournament recently?
I went to a one-day tournament in Bristol a couple of weekends ago.
Yeah.
Pretty much turning up and hoping to get the Best Painted Army award, which I did get, which I was very, very happy with.
Yeah, not surprised.
But I also came second in the tournament. This army actually did really, really well.
Nice.
I got 3 good wins and a very close game in game 2. Yeah, it was a really, really good tournament actually. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Very cool. Right, let's crack on with the game and see how we get on. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Utterly Spineless here, and welcome to another Kings of War battle report. Today we are playing 2,000 points of goblins versus the mighty Varangur, and we are playing the Occupy scenario. So if you have a look at the board, we have some objective markers that are on the board. We have one here, one in the middle, and one here. The black ones are worth 1 point each, and then the white ones are worth 2 points. So that's the one I placed in my opponent's half, and that is the one my opponent placed in my half. Now, in this scenario, you don't get any points for scoring the marker that is in your half. And if you can have a look, the one I placed is there, and then I placed that one. So quite conservative in mine, and then my opponent placed that one and that one. So he placed his objective markers pretty deep in my half of the board, which tells me he plans on playing very aggressively. So deployment wise then, I had 17 drops, Varangur had 10, I think it was 10 or 11, so I was always going to do well on deployment here, and I managed to get some pretty good drops out on my right flank, so getting my Fleabags and the Giant out there, so they're going to come up and come around, at least that's the plan anyway. My opponent managed to deny me on the left flank though, so those trolls aren't very well placed. That's a bit of an awkward one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do there. But other than that, I'm just going to advance up the board with everything nicely chaffed up and see how we get on. The Varangur, when they do hit, they hit very hard, and they're very good at that. So There's a lot of stuff my opponent feels which I am very scared of, particularly that dragon, particularly those Sons of Korgan mounted, and Herger is tough as well, and you can see the Forsaken there in the forest, so lots of really killy stuff for the Varangur here. Goblin turn 1 then, and this is what the board is looking like at the end of the movement phase. As you can see, like, pressed up as hard as I possibly could on the right hand flank with my flea bags, making that nimble pivot in towards. The trolls have moved up there behind the Morbius packs for chaff, but on the left hand side you can see this dragon projecting that massive threat range, and the same with those tundra walls, huge movement there. So stayed back a little bit on the left, but pushed right up as far as I could with the trolls because I know they're safe behind those Morbius packs. Didn't really know what to do with my war trombones because there's not really many good options, especially not on the first turn, maybe not even the second anyway. So I kind of just like moved them up quite conservatively. And then shooting wise, this turned out really well actually. So between my wizard and I think even the spitters, between them anyway, they managed to put 2 wounds on the tundra wolves, and I got a 9. I think I rolled a 9 on the nerve to waver them. So that is really good news. That's a good start. That was very nice. Let's see how the Varangur respond in their turn 1. Varangur turn 1 then, and this is what they do with their movement. Boom. The magic of cinema. Right, so as you can see, the flea bags on the right hand side are causing some serious problems with his front line because the Sons of Korgan didn't really know what to do, so they just kind of pivoted around, and all his units in the middle making some weird pivot movements here. So that's kind of like, these guys immediately have been very effective in just sending his battle line into absolute disarray. Now, surprisingly, Herger has flown into the front of one of the Morbius packs, and the Fallen have gone into the other. I thought Herger might put that charge out. I didn't expect the Fallen to do it as well. So I doubt both those Morbius packs are going to hold. That's a surprise for my opponent. Didn't expect that. On his left flank, obviously those wavering Tundra Wolves are causing him serious problems for his mounted Sons of Korgan. He tried to like shuffle things around to get him over, but basically he had the issue where if he hopped over them with the Sons of Korgan, he would then be in charge range from the giant, so he couldn't do that, so tried to maneuver him around. That's a very awkward situation anyway. And the dragon has just gone and placed himself in front of that building, and that's what the movement is looking like. And yeah, the Magus put 4 wounds on that war trombone, which is pretty good from Lightning Bolt 6 with Elite. That thing is very effective when used properly, and I got pretty lucky here because war trombones are only 8-10, so he got wavered, so that's pretty decent for me. I expected that to go when I saw 4 wounds on it, to be honest. Combat wise then, and the Fallen put 9 wounds. I think 9 is only there because that was the highest dice I had. They put more than that. Needless to say, that Morbius pack on the left is routed, but Herger doesn't do so well. She does put 6 wounds on the Morbius pack, which is fairly decent, but those guys were in inspiring range, and I think on the re-roll it was fluffed, so those guys are wavered, so Herger just bounces back, and that is a bit, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing for me, because getting wavered chaff in the way is just frustrating. I don't think anyone wins there. So that is what the board is looking like at the end of the Varangur turn. The Fallen decide not to, I think they could have pressed up in front of the trolls, but he decided just to leave them there. And there we go, Herger's bounced back. And that is the end of Varangur turn. Goblin turn 2 then, and if we work from left to right, I sent those trolls just around the left of the building. Like, again, I'm suffering from a problem. I got too many units here, and that building is just kind of choking me up. So I send them around. I know it's going to take them a long time to get around, but it's better to have them do that than sit there. The giant's gone up slightly. The war trombones have just kind of milled around there. My spitters have stayed still, so they're going to get some shooting off. My trolls and the troll bruiser have gone into the front of the Fallen, and the trolls have been bane chanted by that flag kit with loot there, so I need that combat to go well. And being held up by that Morbius pack, which is wavered, so I just put some shooting down onto it with this war trombone, and I do 1 wound onto Herger, and then Herger Iron resolves it back, obviously, so that was pointless. In terms of on the right flank then, I didn't know what to do here. I could either have front charged into the unit of the Fallen and just bounce straight back off, maybe put like sort of some like 5-6 wounds on them tops, So what I decided to do is just make another nimble movement up here and then just pivot back in again, staying in the Fallen's flank. Because really what I want to do with these flea bags is just keep my opponent running around in circles, and they're really good for doing that. Sometimes it's better just to not charge. So again, I'm just causing issues for my my opponent's units in the center here. Let's have a look what we get on shooting wise. Oh, my wizards put one more wound onto those Tundra Wolves. I'm rolling really badly for shooting here, but one is enough because on the nerve roll, I just get a good nerve roll and I waver them again. So that's brilliant news. I'm chuffed with that because that's going to hold up that unit of mounted Korgan Sons again. And then what else? Oh yeah, my spitters open up on this unit of Reavers and put 4 wounds on them. Now these guys are fearless, so they don't test, but still, 4 wounds is pretty good. These are the exact target I want to shoot at with my spitters because they are defense 3. Now these guys have crushing 2 and thunderous 2 and crushing 1 because they've got brew of strength, and they've got 25 attacks, so they hit like a truck. But they're only defense 3, so that's exactly what I want my spitters to be shooting at. Combat wise then. And I do a lot better here than I thought. Between the Troll Bruiser and the Trolls that both got Bane Chanted, I put 12 wounds onto that unit of Fallen, which is really good rolling. And then I roll a 7 on the Waver and rout them. A 7 on the nerve roll, and rout them. And they were inspired as well, so I had to re-roll that, and I still got a 7, and they are routed. I did not expect that. I thought I could waver them at best, but that is really good, so I'm dead chuffed with that. So Varangur turn 2 then, and this is what the board is looking like at the end of Goblin's turn, and this is what it's looking like after movement. Oh, okay, so some charges there. As you can see, the first things first, the dragon has gone into the front of the spitters. Now, I didn't expect that. That was strange. And yeah, those mounted sons being held up by those Tundra Wolves was decided to just pivot and face out towards the potential threat of the trolls coming around the building. Nah, the Reavers have gone into the front of those trolls. Like I said, those guys hit like trucks, so that's pretty dangerous. Those guys have inspiring and rallying from that troll, so hopefully they will be able to hold. And yeah, Herger, what a beaut. Look, from right there, it just turns on and goes boom, right into the front of those flea bags. So instantly I'm regretting not making that charge because I think they could break to Herger there. So yeah, probably a little bit too greedy there. As you can see, all the reforms in the center. No shooting then, I don't think. Oh yeah, sorry, the Magus managed to finish off those Morbius packs with I think I put another like 3 or 4 wounds on them, so that Magus is on fire today, just peppering out wounds left, right and centre with those lightning bolts, so that Morbius pack routed. And then combat wise, Herger puts 4 wounds onto the Fleabag Riders and wavers them. So that's okay. I mean, that's better than them getting routed. There's no inspiring here though, so a waver is about the best you can hope for there. And those Reavers put 11 wounds on that Troll Horde and then roll a 3 for the nerve. So that Troll Horde isn't even wavered. So that's devastating for my opponent, that is, because this is the one combat he needed to come off. I mean, the Trolls had rallying and inspiring, so it was unlikely he would have routed them, to be honest, but a wavering he really needed there. So, and he didn't even get that, so that sucks for the Varangur, that does. And then 7 wounds from the dragon onto the sharp 6, but that's sorry, not the sharp 6, the spitters. They are this game, but that's not enough. There's 21 big horde, so they are sticking strong, and that is the end of Varangur turn 2. Okay, so Goblin turn 3, and this is what the board's looking like at the start, and then bang, there we go. Some charges have been declared. So that Troll Bruiser has gone into the flank of that warband there, and so has the Giant. It was a front charge for the Giant, who he came across here. The Troll Bruiser went from there, and that opened up the flank charge from this unit of Trolls. So that unit of Reavers have been flank charged and front charged by those Trolls. Those Trolls regenerate a couple of wounds on the way in as well. The Troll Horde on the left hand side here, well, I haven't got a lot of options for those guys. I can't really just go around that building because then they're going to get charged by the Sons of Korgan, and there's no way they're going to stand a charge like that. So really, I just drop them back I'm kind of kicking myself because I've messed up on deployment with these guys, but my one saving grace is the fact that there is a objective token there. So worst case scenario, I score 1 objective point with these guys and they do nothing, but they're really not in a position to do anything all game, so very frustrating with those. The giant has moved up there, and I've maneuvered everything in a way to just unload some serious firepower onto that dragon there. So I got a breath attack 10 going on to those Tundra Wolves, and lightning bolts from this guy, more lightning bolts from this, soul drain from this guy, and then breath attack 12, breath attack 12 from this from this water and bone. So I'm just going to unload as many wounds onto that dragon as I possibly can. That is the plan anyway. Oh, this water and bone couldn't make it over in time, didn't have the range. So then shooting wise then, that unit of Tundra Wolves is gone, so that's good. I think I managed to put about 4 wounds on them, I think, with the breath attack, and they are routed. And I could, as you can see there, I only put 5 wounds on that dragon, which is absolutely shit, to be honest. I was hoping for way, way more than that, because, considering the amount of firepower I directed at him, so obviously he's staying strong. And then combat-wise then, yeah, tons of wounds onto those Reavers. They were already sitting on 4, so that flank charge and the front charge was probably just massive overkill. They are routed. And then, again, probably more overkill from the Troll Bruiser in the flank and the Giant. I think 10 wounds went onto these guys, and they're only troops, so they're only 10, 12. So those guys were routed. And that is what the board is looking like at the end of Goblin turn 3 after the reforms. I would have liked more wounds onto that dragon, ideally. That 5 should have been closer to about 8, but a really good turn. Despite that, I've routed 3 units from the Varangur there, and although not costly units points-wise, but the main thing is that they are scoring units, and this is an objective-based game, so this is the end of Goblin turn 3, and the Varangur only have 3 scoring units on the board so far, and one of them is a infantry troop which is at the back of his board facing away, and the other one is a mounted unit, so more movement, but again at the back of his board facing away, so it's really not looking good for the Varangur here. Let's see if they can turn it around at the start of their turn 3. Varangur turn 3 then, and this is what happens. So the dragon flies over the top of the spitters and then puts a breath attack onto the war trombone, does 4 wounds and routs it. Now that goblin horde there, if you remember, it was heavily wounded. I think they were on 11 wounds and they regened but down to 9, and then the Magus, who's like somewhere over this side, puts 3 wounds on them and then rolls a 3 for the nerve. So it's a little bit unfortunate. He would have been lucky to rout them again because of the inspiring, but yeah, them getting waivers, he could have done with a decent roll there, so that's a bit unfortunate, but still those guys are sitting on 12 wounds, which is bad. And then the Sons on foot, they've charged into the front of the Fleabag Riders, and those Fleabag Riders were already wounded, so yeah, they just obliterate those. Now, I know these Fleabag Riders haven't actually put a single wound out in combat, but I still feel like these guys have had a good game, because they do their job. They've gone up the flank, they've disrupted my opponent's line, they've made him pivot around, they've moved things away from objectives, so it's hard to feel like they haven't had a good game. So I think that's the point with Fleabags. So yeah, I'm alright with these guys. I think they've done alright. And Herger has flown into the front of the Troll Bruiser. Kind of fluffs her attacks. He only does 2 wounds, and that's fine for the Troll because again he's inspiring as well, and he's got fairly decent nerves, so he's fine. And that is what the board is looking like at the end of Varangur turn. There were no charge options for these mounted Sons here, and they were facing towards this way, if you remember, so they just pivoted and come towards the front of the Giant. They were sick of just fanning around here, to be honest. And these guys have been unfortunate. They've just been held up from turn 1, so yeah, they're going to get charged by that Giant, but there's not much they can do about that. So let's go on to Goblin turn 4. So, Goblin turn 4 then, and as you can see, the Trolls on the left, well, they've just kind of like pivoted. I don't know what the fuck those guys are doing. The Giant has charged into the front of those mounted Sons, and I've got my little whiz there with Soul Drain, so he's going to help him out. And then, again, I've just decided to focus some serious shooting onto the Dragon, so the Spitters have pivoted. to get line of sight. 2 war trombones, I've got line of sight, and I got a wizard there with lightning bolts. So look, what else? Oh, so yeah, so that's a movement. So the troll bruiser's gone back into Herja. This troll horde have charged into the front of that Scold with the BSB. The giant's gone into the front of the unit of Fallen, and these trolls, if you remember, they were wavered. So look, they're on 7 wounds, so they've regenerated 5, I think, when they on 12. So they've regenerated 5 wounds, but they still are wavered. So they're just sitting tight in the middle, but they are holding that objective for now. So those guys are doing okay. See how I get on shooting-wise. Pretty good here. I think the Giant did 4 wounds onto those unit of Fallen, and the Soul Drain from the Wiz did an extra 2. So that puts those up to 6. They don't get routed. They don't get wavered, sorry, or anything. But 6 is a fairly decent chunk onto those guys. I'm reasonably happy with that. The Troll Horde put 8 wounds on the Skull, and he is routed. The Troll Bruiser puts, I think, 1 wound onto Herja, and she regens it with Iron Resolve. So, yeah, again, I had a problem with Herja when I played the last game, and it's just the same this game. That defense 6 with the Iron Resolve, the Life Leech, and the Fly-In, she's just an absolute fucking handful. I don't know what to do. And then the Giant puts 4 wounds onto the Sons of Korgan, which again is just okay, I think, for a Giant, and he bounces back. Shooting wise, not so great. I managed to put 1 wound from a breath weapon onto that guy there, but he's fine. And I only put 4 wounds this turn onto that Chaos Dragon, which again just sucks. I got 20 attacks from that horde and 2 war trombones, and I think I put that lightning bolt there into him. So like lightning bolt 5, breath weapon 12, breath weapon 12, both of those with piercing 1 as well, and then 20 shots from these guys, and all of that I do 4 wounds, which is yeah, really disappointed with my shooting this game. I think it could have been better. And that is the end of Goblin turn 4. Varangur turn 4 then, and this is what the board is looking like before the turn starts, and here it is after some charges are declared. So as you can see, the dragon has flown over the top of the troll, and he's gone for a rear charge on the Troll Bruiser. The Troll Bruiser is not an individual, so that is a full-on rear charge. That's a lot of attacks. And Herja, who was in the front of the Troll Bruiser, has just turned around and rear charged the Giant. And then the Sons of Korgan have gone into the front of him. Good use of the individual move there by my opponent, because I didn't see that happening. The Suns had no chance of breaking a Giant in one round of combat. Well, they do. They have a slim chance, but it's unlikely. But with Herja in it as well, yeah, they're going to put some damage on him, so that's a bit unfortunate. The mounted Suns have gone into the front of the Giant, and in the shooting phase, that Magus puts some lightning bolts and puts 2 wounds onto that troll horde, but again fluffs the nerve roll, so they've gone it's just a competition. He's just lightning and they regen him back the whole time, so they're sitting on 9 wounds now, and I think they're wavered again from what I remember, but that dice might be there from last turn, I can't remember. No, I think they are wavered. So combats then, see how my opponent does, and rolls a little bit below average here, only putting 9 wounds on the Giant, but it doesn't matter because he rolls a 10 on the nerve roll, and that Giant is routed in a 1er. Yeah, that's a little bit devastating. It's not often you see a Giant routed in 1 round of combat, but that's Varangur for you. They're certainly capable of doing that, so he's gone. The Mounted Sons weren't able to do as well, only putting 6 wounds on that Giant, so they just bounce back and he's totally fine. The dragon though, oh man, he gets he puts 20 wounds on that Troll Bruiser and then double ones it. Yeah, not a I don't even think he used it as inspiring as well. Straight up double ones, so he is totally fine. That is devastating. I actually said to my opponent, don't even bother rolling the wounds, just try and double ones it, and he just goes, oh okay, and rolls 2 dice and then double ones it. So then he did have to actually roll his wounds. So it was 20, but it didn't matter. And that is the end of the Varangur turn. Goblin turn 5 then, and okay, so I move my my flag it with a breath weapon and my whiz up. And I put 4 wounds onto that Magus to put him up to 5 wounds, but unfortunately I totally fluffed the nerve roll. I think I only needed like a 6 to waver him, but I don't get that, so that's really unfortunate, and that ends up actually costing me, because I just wanted that guy to stop fucking shooting things. So he's not wavered, so that's unfortunately. Charge-wise, yeah, so that dragon's left himself in a position. He gets counter-charged by the Troll Bruiser, and then he gets flank charged by that horde of trolls. And they get Bane Charmed as well by the Flaggit, just for some good measure. My Spitters come up, and I think I just marched them forward because I've got my eyes on that objective there. I think that's what I did with my Spitters, because I didn't see the point in shooting anything with them. I thought I'd be able to kill that guy without them. And if they move, they're hitting on 6s, plus they're against an individual. It wasn't worth using them to shoot. So I just moved them up. My Water Ramones, I do the same thing. No good targets for those, really, so I'm trying to get them more towards this side of the area, because that Giant's not going to hold for 3 rounds of combat with those Suns. He might hold for 2, but definitely not 3. And they haven't even got any other targets other than that. So shooting-wise, that was it. Let's get on to the combat phase. Yeah, so that giant doesn't, the dragon doesn't last long. It's a good thing I got that Bane Chant on the trolls, because I don't roll very well here. He was on 9 rolls, he was on 9 wounds already. So, yeah, I only put him up to 20, I think, and then he does get routed. But if you have a look at that troll, my Troll Bruiser regens 7 wounds on his way into combat, so he's done well. That unit of trolls there, they weren't wavered. I must have got that wrong. I looked at the wrong dice, so they've managed to like pivot around, and what I've done is move them towards that objective there. So they've turned and moved towards that one there. And that is the end of the Goblin turn, I believe, and then hold on a sec, I just forgot to mention this, so we skip back. Yeah, so that giant there, he, on the counter charge into those Suns, I think they were on 6 wounds, and he managed to put them up to 9. So he doesn't do very well on his attacks, but more importantly, in the shooting phase, the soul drain from this wizard here, I don't get anything. So not only do I not put any wounds on those mounted Suns, but I don't manage to heal any wounds onto that giant. So that is a massive fluff, that is, and it ends up costing me, which is very, very unfortunate. So Varangur turn 5, and that Magus that wasn't wavered manages to shoot from in those woods there and put some wounds on that Troll Bruiser and routes him. So all those wounds he managed to regen was for nothing. He's dead. He's had a good game. The Mounted Suns, now this is where the soul, not getting any wounds on the soul drain cost me, because they put, I think, 7 wounds on that giant and then roll a 7 on the nerve, despite the inspiring on the reroll. So that's enough to rout him, so he is gone. And Herja has gone boop, smash into the flank of that horde of Spitters. Now, if you remember, there was a Troll Bruiser there at the start of the movement phase, so Herja couldn't get line of sight to flank charge these trolls. So that's why she could now, but obviously that guy's dead, so she couldn't at the time. So that's why that flank charge has gone in and puts them up to 10 wounds. So not great on their attacks. I think they were on 8. Were they on 7 or 8? So basically, anyway, so maybe like 3 or 4 wounds there from Herja, but yeah, not close to routing that Goblin Horde. So boop, she just pops away, and that is the end of the Varangur turn. Okay, so Goblin turn 6, and I kind of messed up on the photos here because I got a bit carried away with the, with the end of the game. So I have to talk you through basically what happened. So obviously it's coming towards what was potentially the last turn of the game, so I'm focusing on the objective here. But instead of just spreading out my units to get the objective, what I'm really thinking is that my opponent only has 2 scoring units on the board right now, and those Mounted Suns are heavily wounded. Right, I think they're on 9 wounds. So those guys have a nerve of, let's have a look, 16, 18. So if I can put at least like 4 or 5 wounds on those, they're going to be at least wavered, hopefully routed. And that leaves my opponent with 1 scoring unit. So that makes it pretty much impossible for him to win with just 1 scoring unit that is speed 6 miles away from an objective. So really I'm thinking to myself this turn, I guaranteed got that one. I can leg it over those trolls and maybe get that one. And there's also one sitting right in the middle of the board underneath those trolls. I'm just thinking to myself, all I need to do is get one objective, get these off the board, and that should be the game. So that is the plan anyway. So I move this war trombone up. I moved that war trombone up to get some shooting on that unit. I put some shooting on that Magus, and let's see how I get on. Yeah, so that Magus was on 5 wounds. I put him up to 7 with some lightning bolts and some breath attack there from that flag git, and unfortunately, fuck the nerve roll, and I think I rolled like a 2. I think I rolled double ones. I can't remember. But anyway, I didn't even waver him, so that sucked. This maybe has gone away again. But I did put enough damage, more importantly, on the mounted sons to rout them. So that was good there. And then the trolls, which I charged into the front of the Sons of Korgan. If I go back for a second, they were here. They charged right into the front of the Sons of Korgan, obviously. And then I got a Bane chant from that flag git. Now, I knew I needed to roll really well in this round of combat. And look at these dice, man. 18 dice hitting on 4s. And I only missed 3 of them. I put 11 wounds onto that regiment of sons, and they were already on 4. That puts them up to 15, and I rout them in a 1-0, which is way better than I expected. So that is what the board is looking like at the end of my turn. The Spitters countercharged into Herja, hitting on 6s, wounded on 6s, didn't do a single wound. But that's not really important because I did manage to rout the only 2 scoring units my opponent had. So that is pretty much game for the Goblins. Well, Varangur turns 6 then, and I say that's game over, but it's really not, because looking at the board, there's definitely a way that Varangur can win here. This Troll Horde is wounded and sitting on that objective, so this Magus who wasn't wavered, if he can put some wounds on that Trolls and rout them, then that objective is no longer being scored, and if he can somehow get these Trolls off that objective with Herja, then he can potentially draw the game 0-0. And do you know what? I hadn't even realised until I'm doing this bat rep that I've totally forgot to reform those trolls. I was so excited about rolling good dice. Yeah, so they're facing over there. What an idiot. Okay, so let's see how he gets on then. Yeah, so Herge has gone into the flank of that troll horde. And look at this, man. These trolls are sitting on 5 wounds. That Magus opens up with Lightning Bolt, puts him up to 7, so it doesn't roll that well, but then rolls a 10, re-rolling, thanks to the Inspiring, on his nerve, so 10 up twice, and routs the troll horde. They're gone. Oh my god, it's devastating. I can't even believe that Magus is on the board, let alone routing troll hordes. For any. But Herja doesn't do enough, unfortunately. She only puts 1 wound on that troll horde. And that is the end of the Varangur turn. And we rolled, see if we get another turn. And we do, we get a 7th. So the trolls go back into Herja and they regenerated 1 of those wounds on the way in. And then all my shooting, I just focused down onto that mage who was like heavily wounded. So that mage is gone, and that's pretty much the end of my turn. I just move the Spitters, and then I back up those trolls, so they're now back walking onto that objective that they should have been facing the whole time anyway. And there we go. I'm scoring this one because by the time I bounce back from Herja, that puts me within 3 inches of that one, and I'm scoring that one at the end of the game. And then Varangur turns 6 then, and Herja just decides to yeah, I think she was on 4 wounds because she healed them back for Iron Resolve, recharge the Spitters. The keen-eyed of you might notice that that is the 7th round of combat that Herja has been involved in 7 turns. Yeah, that's just what this model is capable of. She started here, went into the Morbius pack, then here into the Fleabag Riders, then here into the Troll Bruiser, then back here into the Giant, then here into the flank of the Spitters, then here into the flank of the Trolls, and then here back into the flank of the Spitters. Putting in an absolute shift, Herja is, fair play. So anyway, that's the end of the game, and this is what the board is looking like at the end of the game. You can see it's 2 points to the Goblins and no points to the Varangur. So that's the end of the game. So, nice victory there for the Goblins, and MVPs for this game goes to the Trolls on the right-hand side there. Now, these guys showed up big time, and to be honest, I didn't even realise it while playing the game. It wasn't until doing this bat rep, but if you have a look at the charges they got off and the wounds they put down, over 4 rounds of combat, they put a total of 46 wounds out and took no wounds in return, and then to top it all off, was sitting on the objective at the end of the game. All that for 190 points. That is absolutely incredible. Those guys showed up big time. Honorary mention then goes to the Magus for the Varangur, and this guy did really well. Total output of 16 wounds all game. He got 2 waivers and a rout, and especially that rout on turn 6 on that troll horde, that was awesome. And the whole time taking constant fire from the goblins and never once wavering, so that guy had a very good game. Obviously Herja putting in a shift as well. 7 turns, 7 different rounds of combat, and being the last man standing as well. Okay guys, so I'm just going to give you my my 2 cents and my thoughts on how deployment went on this game. I do like a deployment video on every bat rep, and really my aim here is to just kind of like teach you guys, well, not so much teach, but you know, just like give my thoughts on deployment and how it panned out, because I think deployment is one of those things that is really important. Like, you can have the best list and the best army, whatever, but if you deploy badly, it makes a game almost unwinnable. So it's a massive part of the game, and I just think it's one of those things that's often really overlooked, and also not only that, but it's difficult to learn as well, because it can only be really learned through experience. It can't be like taught really. You just have to see how different armies play, how different armies deploy, and you know, learn how games pan out and what could have happened, what couldn't have happened. Yeah, so let me know in the comment section if anyone even watches these or even cares about them. Are they helpful? It would be nice to know. But anyway, here's my 2 thoughts on this game. So Varangur have got 10 drops and Goblins have got 17. So Varangur are never really going to come off good on this one. So what I'm doing here is I picked tableside, but I think I deployed like my flag at first, and then I think I deployed my troll bruiser, and then I think I went for the whiz and then a war trombone. I was literally like, I wasn't deploying anything that would give my hand away. So I had almost nothing on the board, and Varangur had to put down like a good chunk of his army. Like, I think if I were to estimate it, I'd say Varangur deployed over 1,000 points, maybe like 1,500 points, and I'd put on maybe like, say, 300. It was literally that bad. So yeah, it was difficult for Varangur to deploy in this one. So what he's gone for is flank denial. Now this is a tactic which is like totally normal if you're normally outnumbered. So what you basically do is you deploy in this part of the table, so that you're not exposing this flank to your opponent. You're only exposing one flank rather than 2. If you were to deploy it like this, you'd expose 2 flanks. So that's perfectly normal tactic. But I think where this went wrong for the Varangur is flank denial is a tactic that works best if you've got a really strong, maybe ideally mobile unit on the flank here. So this guy ideally would have been on this flank and then looking outwards here, because then these 2 units can't come round and collapse, because this dragon would have just smashed this unit of fleet bags off the board, and then that wouldn't have happened. So maybe in hindsight, that king on Chimera would have been better deployed here. Like I said, it's difficult to say in hindsight, because obviously my opponent didn't know what was on the board before he put this guy down. He did okay on this side, but again, he had an issue where he was angled this way, so maybe he should have been like that, angled this way, and then he could have raced up here and done his flying pivot looking in. Herja deployed well, projecting that threat range to go anywhere, and obviously the Pathfinder unit of Forsaken in the Woods, again, deployed well. But what was bad though? Yeah, this unit of Tundra Walls was a huge issue for this unit of Mounted Suns. My opponent wanted to chaff them up. Yeah, that's totally fine. But ideally, if he had placed these Mounted Suns here, they wouldn't have been held up because he could have got around them maybe. Because that wavering just cost him so much. So yeah, that's always an issue if you're going to chaff up your hard-hitting units. Just be aware that if those small chaff get wavered, it's going to be a problem. So there you go, guys. There's another battle rep done. I hope you enjoyed that one, and I'll catch you on the next one.